A lot of the community believes a wild theory that the new character in DBD is a failed Predator license due to the various similarities that the two characters possess. However, if we're talking purely in similarities, then this theory is wrong, and the Skull Merchant is actually based on Scandal Savage, a DC comic villain. Not only are they both villains, but they also share the same double wristblade weapon, as well as both having short hair and being created to be attractive. If that was not enough, what if I told you that Scandal Savage is also Brazilian and rich? Does this also mean that the Skull Merchant is a failed DC collab? Something that a lot of players might not know is that the weapon included in her outfit has an entirely new cosmetic animation, as the basic attack is completely different from her default, as well as it has a cool reload animation. Skull Merchant and Dredge are the only two characters in the entire game that have cosmetics with completely different attack animations. Not even Pig with the drill or any ultra rare have this detail. But for each amazing detail, there is always a problem. In the new skins case, both the default and the outfit mask clip to the jacket on the idle pose. Something weird considering that they had full artistic liberty to make cosmetic pieces that don't clip with each other in the idle pose. Another clipping issue I found is in Renato's leg bracelets, as they clip through the leg, but that is not as blatant as the school outfit. Additionally, I said in my disappointment video that she was the first character in a year that didn't have a spawn animation. Well, it turns out that the devs did add one, but it seems to be broken, so honestly I would rather they not add anything if it's going to be unpolished. Despite the Skull Merchant being a very simple character to understand with not much depth, she has a lot of small quirks that might not be well known in the player base. First of all, her radar has two lights that serve a purpose. The first yellow light on the left tells you when a survivor is being tracked, so if you see this light on, this means that you can see the location of a survivor with the radar. The second light information is about your drones, and I noticed that it turns green when you can place a drone in case you have one in your inventory, and also it turns red when you can manually activate a sleeping drone. At least that's what I understood from it. This way, you don't have to use the radar or your power while the lights are off, so you don't waste your time, as this killer requires a lot of time management. The second thing that this radar tells you is the altitude of the survivors in the map. If they are below you, you can see an arrow pointing down, and an arrow pointing up if they are above. This is very useful in 2-floor maps. The third is that her drone radius is infinite in height, so you can place drones on upper floors or inside a basement and you will scan the entire area while the drone is active, bypassing any floors in the way. However, once the drone is inactive, then it doesn't work and survivors can safely pass. This is why you can manually activate the drones, leaving survivors with no choice other than to hack the drone or tank the expose effect while they are injured. And finally, I have seen a lot of Skull Merchant gameplays doing a very common mistake, and that is putting the drones randomly covering a gen. In order for a drone to not be completely useless, you have to take into account the line of sight of the drones, because once they deactivate, a survivor has to be detected again with the sweeping radar in order for the drone to turn on. If you put a drone behind a wall with a generator, the drone will only work while active, but once it goes idle and enters the sweeping state, the walls will cover the survivors, allowing them to repair the gen. So the best placement would be in front of the gen with no walls in between. Now remember one key important detail: your drones are placed at the spot where you press the button for the first time. So even though in the animation it looks like you can place the drone in front of you, if you keep moving, the drones will fly back to the spot where you first pressed your interaction button. So keep that in mind. And now for fun trivia. Something that I haven't seen people mention is how cool Adriana's add-ons are. Instead of being random objects that are part of the killer's lore, most of Adriana's add-ons are basically attachments and parts that she uses in order to apply effects in the match, with the only other characters that do this being Trapper and the Huntress. The only two add-ons that are lore based are the two mangas that her father wrote, and you can see the cover in both of them, and as you can see, Adriana is cosplaying the protagonist from her dad's manga. So if you have any complaints about her visual design being trash, don't blame behavior, and instead blame her father for his poor taste. Something that you might have missed is that the school merchant is the first ever character that had their Mori animation slightly changed due to the backlash, or possibly because it was unfinished in the PTB. The new Mori features a different camera placement, showcasing how Adriana comes closer to the survivors from behind. It still doesn't make any sense in my opinion, and it's one of the worst Moris in the game, but this change is still welcome. However, what you probably didn't notice is that all Moris have changed. Now, whenever you are performing one, the HUD completely disappears, so the experience is more cinematic. Is this in preparation to a Mori store where you can buy a new animation? Maybe. Everyone already heard about the dark Brazilian manga lore, but most don't know the lore and the connection between the survivors and the school merchant. Both survivors had a kite flying business, which is also represented in-game with the cosmetics that have merchandising including their business logo. One day, one of their kites connected with a school drone, and they decided to follow it inside the forest. And that's where Renato got slashed by the school merchant in order to not leave any witness. Thalita saved Renato by escorting him to the beach that she saw. However, based on Renato's lore, we can assume that the beach was the entity manipulating Thalita into entering the fog. Sadly, one big downside that I have seen with this lore is that Renato does not have any scars or wounds from the school merchant attack, and honestly I wish he did, just to further show the connection more. In fact, these two survivors are some of the cleanest and happiest survivors in the fog, so maybe the fog is not that bad at all. After all, you don't have to pay any taxes or worry about dying since you get revived either way. Now, a fact about Renato that I haven't seen many people talking about is how he is potentially autistic, as it's hinted by the flavor text in various cosmetics, in the description of his personality in the lore and perks, and also in his idle pose and campfire animation. This would make Renato the second autistic character in DBD, the first being Claudette Morel. And the final cool fact about Renato is related to his dog tattoo on the shoulder. Not only it showcases how Renato is a dog person, but also this dog breed is an icon for Brazil, to the point that it's basically a meme. This dog is called Caramel, and they are very common in Brazil, often seen as stray dogs. There is an iconic image which showcases the inspiration for the tattoo, and you also probably have seen this meme of a dog dancing, which is the same breed. I thought this was a very funny reference that Behavior decided to include in their character. And also, according to Renato's concept art, his very rare cosmetic used to have a shade, but for some reason the devs decided to go full bald on him. Now this is truly a completely useless fact that is not going to blow your mind, but in the PTB, Thalita's icon had a missing alpha texture in the choker, which made it look like just a black line. In the live release, this alpha was correctly applied, and the choker finally has its transparency, and people say Behavior doesn't care about the game. What is wrong, however, is how Renato's default hair is currently glitched, and it's actually the uncommon bicolor. This is why in the store, there is one hair that is exactly the same. That's because it literally is. Renato's default hair does not have any blonde tips, so enjoy this visual glitch while it lasts. Also, Bloodthirsty Executive. Bloodthirsty Executive.
Petah. The horse is here.
The Shelter Woods base is very detailed and it contains a lot of cool stuff and details like a laptop with an anime which shows the weeb side of Adriana, as well as a fridge with a bunch of limbs? Wait, is Adriana into this stuff? Also, there are a bunch of magazines as well as official documents about her brand, which can be found in the bedroom on top. Maybe she also gets a future cosmetic wearing the red dress in her bed. After the release of this DLC, there are a lot of people playing the game, maybe checking out the DLC. This is only the Steam charts, so I imagine that in total there are thousands of people online. And the best part is that literally nobody out of the thousands of players asked for a screaming mechanic change. And as the final fun fact, I think this is one of the most underrated things in the entire update. For some reason, when you go close to the walls in the maps, you can finally hear the fog creatures screaming beyond the walls, just like it was back in the golden days. What are the creatures screaming? Why are they screaming in the first place? Will we ever know? Well, we actually don't. But subscribing to my channel considerably increases the chances of you finding out in a future episode. So I wanted to ask you, do you really think this chapter was bad? How was your experience while playing this DLC? And did you change your mind on the new killer? Thanks for watching and have a nice day.